Tony.
Explain about the bear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's coming in.
You're getting help with decisions over there.
Yeah. I'm gonna mute my phone, so.
That's a great idea.
Good idea.
You're gonna need to vote.
Good on me.
Yeah.
I know I needed cheese and cheese. Thank you.
Hey, you didn't mute your phone.
Goodness.
Okay, mute.
Yeah.
Actually, I heard that.
Harry's the entertainment.
Whose glasses he has on.
Maybe you can sing the source of the band.
Yeah, that was.
How could you be that bad?
Would you see, she said she was 3 sheets and she's checking herself.
Yeah, she took herself into rehab the
Oh,
next day.
geez. That's
After
sad.
she's seen herself.
That's sad, so many of those entertainers.
Somebody had been in charge of that and let her go out there.
Yeah, they put her.
Yeah, go ahead. See how it goes.
I'd like to call this evening's joint board meeting to order. All rise for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Abbott.
Here.
Augenbaugh.
Here.
Beers.
Here.
Dietz.
Here.
Gelfen.
Here.
Jackson. Here. Malika.
Here.
Whitaker.
He is asked to be excused.
Reesinger.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here. Prior to this evening's meeting, we did have an executive session to discuss personnel. I'll now move on to public comments on the agenda items only.
Do you want to do a motion to excuse Dick? Do we need to?
Please.
I'll make a motion to excuse Dick Whitaker from the meeting tonight.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Cordy?
Abbott.
Yes.
Augenbaugh.
Yes.
Beers.
Yes.
Dietz.
Yes.
Gelfen.
Yes.
Jackson. Yes. Malika.
Yes.
Reesinger.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes. No public comments on agenda items. No correspondence, old business. We'll start with manager's progress reports.
Yep, just a few quick items I wanted to update you on. First is the architectural update. We are still meeting with the architect. We have a meeting scheduled for next week to further review the construction plans and documents, but they are working through that process now to put those together. Special counsel update, just wanted to let you know we are, again, still meeting with special counsel. They're working on numerous things. They did submit the joint complaint. When I say joint, they worked with the police union to submit this to the judge to seek a special provision for civil service where Sandy Township police officers would fold into the civil service system of the city of Du Bois. So they did jointly submit that. Additionally, we did get some recommendations on pensions. Later this evening, we'll be seeking permission to move forward with some actuarial studies so we can understand what those impacts will be of those pension options. On tax structure budget and utility user fee, we did put out the RFP as directed by the joint board. That is available on both the Sandy Township and Du Bois website. We did send it out to about 7 consulting firms to get some information on. Those are due back on August 1st. After we receive those back, depending on the number, we'll set up an interview selection committee. We'll interview the folks and make a recommendation for our meeting in August. Last, I wanted to let you know we did kick off the fire study. So we did have a chance to meet them virtually, talk through a couple of logistical items and some information still needed. So we are working with them. We are hopeful they're going to be at our meeting on August 21st to give a brief presentation. Also, they plan on coming up earlier in the day to meet with some of the key figures, the fire chiefs, and also some station personnel to start learning about DuBois and Sandy fire departments. And that's all I have.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Barry.
On the fire study update, have all the departments in the city and the township turned in all the information requested?
We have not received it all yet. I did personally speak to the folks with the missing information, and we do expect it most likely by the end of day Friday, but if not, very early next week, and that is acceptable to the fire study folks to get that information.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Sean? Approval of minutes, June 19th, 2024.
So move.
Second. Corby?
Abbott,
Yes.
Augenbaugh,
Yes.
Beers,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Gelfen.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Malika.
Yes.
Reesinger.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes. New business. Approval of invoices. First is McNeese Wallace in Nurek in the amount of $3,861.
I make a motion to approve the invoice for McNeese Wallace and Nurek, $3,861.
Second that motion.
Corby?
Abbott,
Yes.
Augenbaugh,
Yes.
Beers,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Gelfen.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Malika.
Yes.
Reesinger.
Yes.
Whitaker. I'm sorry, Sullivan.
Yes. Second invoice from KTH Architects in the amount of $24,480.
I make a motion to accept the approval of invoice for KTH Architects in the amount of $24,480.
Second.
That motion. Take your pick.
Properly moved in second. Corby?
Abbott,
Yes.
Augenbaugh,
Yes.
Beers,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Gelfen.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Malika.
Yes.
Reesinger.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes. DuBois City refinancing bond. We have a presentation and
Yep, so I'm going to turn it over to Tim Frenz. Tim Frenz is with Janie Montgomery Scott out of their Pittsburgh office to give a presentation. Then after the presentation, we would seek approval of the joint board to approve a motion to continue the financing.
Good, Sean?
Yep.
You ready to go, Tim? All right, good. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Frenz. As Sean said, I'm from Janie Montgomery Scott. I'm in the Capital Markets Group out of our Pittsburgh office. You may know Janie from our advisory office that we have here in DuBois. I work with that group. I'm on the capital markets side, so I put together bond issues for the company. So most of what I go through tonight is a summary of the opportunity you have to refinance some outstanding loans and also to provide advance funding for part of the capital projects that you're looking at, which will eventually be reimbursed by the RACP grant money that you'll be getting from the Commonwealth. You need to spend the money to get the money, but you need to have the money to spend the money, so we're going to help you get the money if you follow all that. So there's a few pages in the front, I know a lot of you are new, haven't been through the financing process before.
wanted to just give you a couple of pages about who we are and what we do for the process. So if we just flip through, I'll go through this really quickly. Financing team for the city, you'll see there's me, and then both of those other people you see on the top line, Chris Campbell and Kathy Hanna. I know Sean has been dealing quite a bit with Kathy, our associate, who puts together a lot of the legal documentation associated with the transaction. Our underwriting team is out of Philadelphia. They're the ones that actually, once we're ready to go into the market, they will survey all of our institutional and retail salespeople across the country and determine what interest rates should be placed on your bonds. And then credit and investor strategy. This is important too. Alice Chang has been very, very instrumental so far for us. Because of the situation that you're in with regards to the merger, it's very unique. Because of your financial statements and the history, the recent history that the city has had, there's stories to tell to figure out how best to put this into the market, how to present the process best to the rating agencies. So she's been instrumental in that process. So these are just the people that are behind me that are working really every day on the transaction. Just who we are. If you go through on page 3, we have capital markets offices and public finance offices across the country. The firm is based in Philadelphia, but the capital markets group is here that I work for is in Pittsburgh. We kind of divvy up the state with the Philadelphia people kind of handling the eastern half. We kind of handle the western half, and then we work in conjunction with the local branch offices. So like, I deal with the Du Bois office quite a bit. The Du Bois office will be involved to the extent that when we go to put these bonds into the market, in making sure that local residents, if interested, will have the opportunity and the foreknowledge that these bonds are being sold. So that if they want to help invest and buy bonds for the project, they certainly have the ability to do so. So it's nice to have someone in town that can make sure that anybody that's interested has the opportunity to purchase bonds. Page 4, we cover Western Pennsylvania to a significant degree. You see our Du Bois office there. We have 8 professionals there, and just hitting on that local investment angle. Those 8 professionals manage almost $1 billion of assets, and they hold, of those $1 billion, almost $50 million are in municipal bonds, which is what we would be doing for you. So we have people that would be willing to buy them. The last couple of pages are just to give you a flavor for the types of things that we've done over the last year. We've done over 100 transactions across the country for almost $20 billion. The smallest issue was just over $1 million, and the largest issue, the smallest issue was $4 million. The largest issue was $1.6 billion. So we participate in the smallest transactions all the way up to the New York Metropolitan Transit Authority and things like that, all the way across the board. The last page, I'm really not going to go over that. You can just kind of take a look at it. Sean is aware of the process that goes through. We've checked off a lot of the boxes of the things that we do as your bond underwriter. We work with your bond counsel. There's a lot of terms that sound the same. We are your underwriter. We actually structure the transaction and sell it in the markets and get your interest rates. Anthony Ditka from Dinsmore and Scholl, who couldn't be here tonight, he sends his regrets. He's your bond counsel or bond attorney. He puts together all the legal documents and is kind of the liaison between you and the Commonwealth with regards to all the documentation and making sure that everything that we do falls under the proper regulations for the Commonwealth. So that's a little bit of background. If you turn to page 8, give you a flavor for what we're looking at. And there's 2 pieces to this financing. We first started talking, Sean and I first started talking about the refinancing idea, and then we came up with the idea, well, you need to front some money for the construction that's going to get reimbursed by the RACP grant. How best to do that? And we think it makes sense that you put that all together. If you're going to be hiring a bond underwriter and an attorney and do the rating and all of these things, you might as well put those 2 pieces together, do them both at the same time, rather than doing them 2 separate pieces a month or 2 apart. It'll save you, $30,000, $40,000 on transaction costs. Why would you want to pay those twice? And it also helps going into the market to be able to put those 2 pieces together. It makes your transaction a little larger. it encourages more interest from potential investors. They like to see larger transaction. They get more interested in that. So the loans we're looking at refinancing, you've got several. 3 of them make sense right now to refinance. The 2012s, 13s, and 15s with S&T, all carrying rates of nearly 6% right now. It makes sense to get rid of those loans. I mean, we're under 4% right now on an all-in cost to refinance them. And you'll see the savings we get to in a minute. We looked at some other ones. Obviously, Penvest, Penvest is a great deal. And it's always good to get as much as you can from Penvest. So those rates are low and they're staying low. Those things really are never going to be refinanced for any real reason. Certainly not financial reasons. You're never going to get lower interest rates. And then that 2021 loan currently has a low interest rate of just over 2%. And that doesn't reset for more than like a couple more years. So though it could go up higher, it's currently low. And there's no reason to go ahead and try to refinance a 2% rate with essentially something just under 4%. So we're recommending you leave that. Perhaps we come back in 2026 when that thing's facing a reset. If it looks like that rate's going to be significantly higher, that one's big enough that we could do this same thing again. But that's 2 years from now. No reason to refinance 2% money rate. So if you flip, you look at the page 9. These are the payments associated with those 3 loans, assuming interest rates stay the same over the life of those loans. Now, you can't assume that they always will, but you also can't just simply assume that they're just going to drop down to nothing. They could go higher, they could go lower. All you can do really is take a look at where they are now, what the price is that you could fix them out at, and what kind of cash flow differential does that produce. So you see that right now those 3 loans pretty much cost about $1.2 million per year. Assuming interest rates stay the same, that's where the payments on those 3 loans would be. And you see they tail off towards down the end. If we look at page 10, if we refinance those in the current capital markets with current interest rates, you can see that we can save a significant amount of money here. The dark blue are your current payments. The light blue would be your new payments based upon interest rates as of today. And you can see the dollar savings on the far side. We're looking at about $100,000 a year over the life of the transaction going out to 2040. So we're talking about $1.8 million in savings. It's significant. It's significant, obviously, in a dollar amount. $100,000 a year is nothing to sneeze at. It's also significant, just to give you a flavor, in our business, we look at how efficient is a refinancing. I mean, just because you can save some money, what if it's possible that you could have saved a whole lot more money? Should you wait? Do you pull the trigger now? One of the metrics that we use that's commonplace in the market to figure out how efficient a refinancing is, how much in the money it is you take your savings and you divide that by the amount of principal that you'd be refunding to generate that savings. And if that number can be over 2%, that's generally a national go, no-go hurdle rate. You want to be real conservative, you go to 3%. But we're looking at like 12 to 15% here. So it is significantly in the money, and it's something that makes all the sense in the world to do. We've looked at the documents with regards to the loans. There's no prepayment penalties. We can pay those off at any time. So when we're ready to do that, we'll just coordinate with S&T. We'll let them know we're going to do this. They'll give us those payoff values, and we'll have it all locked in after we sell those bonds. Any questions about the loan refinancing portion of this? Okay. Page 11, the other part of this financing, this would be when we go into the market, we would actually do a Series A and a Series B. The Series A would be the loan refinancing that we just talked about, would go out to 2040. Series B would be what we call a grant anticipation note. And you're aware of with the RACP, how that works, how those dollars come in. So I'm not going to go over that in detail, but basically, the RACP grant, I understand you have a commitment of up to 2.5 million, I believe, is that
Yep.
correct? So we have to plan for that now. We're planning for the idea of, and that will be part of the ordinance that you would adopt next week, and Anthony Ditka's been working on that document. We have to plan for the fact that perhaps you could issue these notes up to amount to get you 2.5 million. We'll get to the fact that, you know, you've got bids coming in. We'll know more exactly how much you need. We're talking right now, I believe, that we think that that number is really about 2 million.
Correct.
That's what we're expecting. We have to plan for we should plan for 2.5. We don't want to have you approve only 2. Turns out bids come in higher. And then you go, well, you know, the RACP is going to give us 2.5 if we want to do a project of, you know, 5 million. If you want to throw in the 2.5, we could do the 2.5. So it'll allow us that whatever number that comes in at, up to the 2.5 million, we'll be able to make sure that we fund, knowing that the RACP money, once it comes in, will then pay those notes off. So what we've structured here is really a short-term note. Worked with Sean, trying to figure out, we don't want to have this thing go out any longer than we need it, because once you get that RACP money in, we're going to want to terminate this. We're going to want to refund and call those bonds or notes with the proceeds and get them off your books. That way you don't have to pay any more interest on them. So the idea here is the latest you would possibly have that money come in, we're saying, is May of '27. We think the earliest you possibly might have that money come in is May of '26. So the idea would be we structure these notes with a term of May of '27. We put into the documents when we sell them in the market a redemption feature that says they go out to May of '27. However, anytime after May of '26, the city can call those. They're gone. So you call those with the proceeds of the RACP money. That's how they're structured. That's what investors will know. They will understand how this process works. So what it costs the city is it's going to cost the city the interest on that $2 million for that period of time. And currently what we're assuming is right now, we're assuming that would be about 3 semi-annual payments of about $50,000 a year. That's how the bonds and notes get paid. They're not monthly like your current bank loans are. The payments are semi-annual. So you pay no principal on the notes at all. That would go all the way to 27 with the idea that you're never going to have to pay that. The RACP money's going to pay that. Now, I'll speak for Anthony Ditka, put my legal hat on and tell you that legally, the obligation is the city's. It's a general obligation. So if there's some crazy reason, all of a sudden the Commonwealth reneges on giving you the money, which isn't going to happen. But if somehow that happened, you can't just tell bondholders, sorry, we didn't get the grant money. You would be responsible for paying it out of your general fund, or else we just refinance that into a longer term obligation so that you didn't have to come up with one big chunk of $2 million. But again, that's not going to happen. We understand that. You're going to use that money with the RACP to pay off those, and then they're gone. Gets you your $2 million up front to do the project, or your share of the project, or their share, it's actually the state's share of the project, really. And then those things will be gone. So that is the process there. You put both of those together, you sell those at the same time. And that way you'll have your money. We're walking a tightrope here because what we want to try to do is make sure that we don't issue those notes for the new money really earlier than you need them. And we want to make sure we know what the project's really going to cost before we just pick a number. We don't want to just say 2. And if it turns out it's 2.2 on that terms of that share, we could go a little more, or however we want to do it. The other thing we want to do, though, is we do want to refinance those loans as soon as we can. We don't want to have you making monthly payments on that almost 6% loan that we can avoid. So we're going to do it as fast as we can, but make sure that we don't borrow that new money any earlier than we're certain, time and size. So that gets into the calendar here. You see on the last page, the calendar. just has a series of events that we put together. I don't want to say it's preliminary. I mean, certain things are on there. There are reading of the ordinance, which would be next week, the first reading, an enactment of the full debt ordinance, the second reading in August. The idea, I'll be working with Sean more closely as we, next few weeks or so, trying to figure out exactly when. Do we know when the bids are coming in?
We'll have that date solidified here next week.
Okay.
So,
The other thing we're going to make sure is, the idea is we don't want to really go into the market and sell these notes until we really know exactly what those bids look like. So wait for that. The other key item that we do have that I have highlighted on mine is that on September 18th, the Fed meets with the idea and the expectation that this will be the first rate cut.
How will that affect our rates? That's actually beneficial to the situation, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It should be,
Yeah.
unless, markets are fickle, unless for some reason they don't do it. It could create some chaos, but the expectation is they are going to do. I was just reading, I was sitting here, I think it was Goldman Sachs's experts are now forecasting the potential for 2 to 3 rate cuts. So if we get to September, the market will have already started to build in.
They already have.
Yeah, they're starting to, that's correct, these rate cuts. So it's not like you have to say, well, maybe we should wait till December. By September, that market might be rallying really, really hard, and really, rates might be dropping, so it might be a very good time. So that's a long-winded way of me saying, I think your timing is fortuitous.
So the numbers could look better, probably look better than these.
They absolutely could, yeah, if interest rates drop, all the numbers that are on here will likely look better. We've tried to be conservative in our current estimates. Obviously, we'll be transparent with you. It's not my strategy to try to manage your expectations. My strategy is to make sure that I give you as much current knowledge about where the markets are as possible, so that we know, rates go up, rates go down. One thing that is interesting, and you just mentioned about this, just the way this structure is, and because of the way that the loans repay, we did take a look at kind of, what if rates go up a little bit? Does it really eat away at your savings to a significant degree? And it really doesn't. I think rates would have to go up a significant amount before we'd come back to you and say, hey, look, this really doesn't make any sense anymore. We're getting back down to that 2 or 3%. We're like 12 to 15 now. If rates go up by a quarter point, maybe we're at 10%. So is it quite as good? No. But is it still really good? Yeah. So, it's something that we expect as we get through August and into September. I don't expect a significant negative situation that I'm coming back to you saying we really want to hold off on.
The $2.5 million, $2 or $2.5 million, do we have to pay that back? What if something happens where interest rates go up? Can we keep that invested in a CD at higher than what, and not pay it back?
No. It would be nice if the federal government says that's a no-no. The federal government says, we're giving you a good enough break, we're letting you borrow on a tax-exempt basis.
Okay.
You can't then use that tax-exempt money, invest it in some taxable instrument.
I'm talking the city.
Yes, understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. Now, because you actually have to use the money for what you say you're going to use it for.
And give it back when it's time.
Yeah, so hypothetically, you could leave it, and on top of that note is going to have a maturity of May of 27 anyway. You can't then use that money for something else. Anthony Ditka would be he would give a more eloquent explanation from the legal side, but you have to kind of, I'm going to say convince him. You have to show him what you're using the money for. He then opines that under tax law, that is an appropriate use of tax-exempt funds. And in what you're doing, it is. We're also putting in the documentation that says this is in conjunction with the RACP grant, that as that RACP grant is received, that debt then
And that's
comes off your books.
legal use.
Right. You know, the other thing you can do, you know, look, if we get to a point in another 2 years from now, let's just say, and interest rates start getting back down to those crazy low rates that we had during the pandemic, maybe that makes you think, well, should we go out and borrow $5 million because the rates are so low? Maybe it makes some sense. Do we have projects that we want to do? And that will be something that we'll be talking as part of our services to you in the years going forward. We'll keep you posted that you're like, well, we have some stuff that we're going to do eventually. If it turns out that, you know, at the end of next year, rates are like amazingly great, maybe we say to you, look, if you've got some stuff, this might be a good time to go ahead and lock in a 20-year financing. So we'll keep you posted on that. Questions for me? That's kind of the background about what we're doing. I believe Anthony sent over some stuff. I'm not sure with regards to anything that this group is going to approve. But then the next steps will be next week. Anthony he's put together a draft that is circulating of the ordinance, which will be the first reading of the ordinance. And then the second reading, I believe, it's on the calendars in August. That is the idea behind the process. Questions for me? Sean, anything that you think I missed to this?
No, I think you covered it well. We do have a recommended motion from our bond counsel, so I can share that with Pat or Shane and if they wouldn't just to read it. But first, does anybody have any questions for Tim?
Can we comment on, ask questions? The loan that you're leaving out, how much is that loan and what institute has that loan right now?
Say that again?
The loan that you're leaving out of all of this?
We're leaving a couple, yeah.
So how much is that loan and what institute has that loan?
I think next year has the one. Next year has the one loan. The loan.
About $3.5 million in next year.
Yeah, but
Yep.
2021 next year, it was originally 4.5 million to 2.06% interest rate. It is variable, and that rate could potentially go up to 6.5%. And the balance on that loan is about 3.6 million.
Okay, so you said it was worth leaving it out, but in 17 months and 13 days, January 2026 hits, that could reset.
Could.
So at that point, if they need to go through this again, what's the expense of having this bond issued for that as well?
Well, you wouldn't, it's a good question, and that's what we looked at. I mean, you wouldn't want to do it now because, well, especially considering the idea is the thought might be that some of these rates are coming down, and then in 2026.
From 2.06, it's bound to go up. Even if it drops
Right. It might.
2%, it's still going to go up.
It might, yeah, it probably will. But
Yeah.
what we'll do is at that time, see, what I don't want to do is come in and say, hey, look, we could refinance it now, and it would kind of technically be a loss. We'd be increasing the rate on that portion for however many 17 months or whatever it is. We're going to make you pay more than you otherwise would, because maybe after that, you'd be paying less. That's possible. But that's not good business practice for us to try to tell you to approve a loan refinancing that you know right away for a year and a half is going to cost you money. So what does it cost to go ahead and, let's say we go ahead and do this again then? You pay your cost of issuance of probably $30,000 cost of issuance.
Because this project's costing $200,000?
All in, something like that. I mean, you're just paying those costs, but the thing that gives me comfort is that it is large enough to do as a standalone financing and bond issue. If it was like $1 million, let's just say, then you say, it's just not gonna make any sense. You don't wanna pay a lot of fixed cost rating fees and attorney fees and things like that to refinance $1 million. But this is, what, 3.5?
3.5, and then we also looked at, City Township also has a next tier loan out, approximately 3.5, so it's at an interest rate of about 3.9, so we did look at that also as part of this, and it didn't make sense at this time, but I think the recommendation is to reevaluate in 26.
Yeah.
And combine both.
Could potentially combine both.
Right, we might be looking this exact same kind of puzzle pieces, and what do they look like, a year and a half from now.
I was going to ask a question later when it went to the floor. I don't know if it fits in here or not. I guess you said this is Du Bois City refinancing only, and you just talked about Sandy. So I'm assuming it's only the Du Bois side of the consolidation, and it's not Sandy's money. And I guess I was wondering, then it becomes the consolidation city's responsibility financially in the end for this, correct?
Correct, and that's why we're talking about it here at the joint board meeting.
Then the final thing would be, how does it Sandy's debt stack up to Du Bois' debt and some of that financing stuff that you already spent in the past to keep you functioning, that now Sandy residents are going to be picking up some of that type of debt? And you don't have to be very specific, like, you know, we just replaced this curve or something like that. I was just looking overall how the debt
Sandy Township has about $3.5 million in a next tier loan for water sewer projects. And additionally, it'll be about $500,000 for a Section 108 loan that's repaid through CDBG funds. So that's that's all the Sandy Township debt has.
But is it equal, then, compatible with this Du Bois debt? No.
Du Bois has more debt.
Has more debt?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have about $4 million in debt, Sandy Township.
What's the amount of debt for the city?
I don't mind on my phone, somebody can add that up for me. And don't count the sewage treatment plant, because I feel that's getting paid by user fees, not taxes and things like that.
Well, I would agree with you.
So let's see what-
Sean had mentioned something about sewer and water for Sandy. I'm assuming it's user fees that are paying that.
Add all those up.
So it's not really the, I guess I was looking at the general tax revenue that will be paying for this and having some.
Du Bois has much more debt than the city.
And how do you guys, how are we looking at it in a fairness issue?
He's going to add it up, we'll tell you.
He's going to add it up, okay.
Good thing you're in construction.
You want me to get a slide rule?
Anybody have an abacus?
You're ancient yourself.
Yeah, I roughly 15 million without.
Just take the big numbers.
Yeah.
Plus.
So Du Bois is 15.
Yes.
And Sandy is,
We're about 4.
5.6 plus. Big difference. Yeah, you're right, about 15 million. Yeah, about 15 million.
so how are we looking at it in terms of the general funds? I guess we're consolidated, top.
They all become one.
They all become one. The one advantage is, the city of Du Bois has is, of course, you guys have all the land. You know, we have most of the services with the pool and the library and, you know, the schools and all that stuff in our area. But what we do have is we have 6,000 acres of the land out by the reservoir, which we are very, very good at harvesting and very good at maintaining. Like, we don't cut it all at once. It's done very specifically, and Scott could probably tell us it's done very well.
Yeah, it is.
So, I mean, we have so much more assets than you have, than Sandy Township has in that. So we have more debt, we have more assets. I think Sandy Township's getting a good deal dealing with us. Next. You guys are so lucky.
So two questions, sir. First of all, with the new borrowed money, what, I think I heard you say 2040?
That's the refinancing, 2040, goes up to 2040.
How is that time frame compared to the current time frame of the loans?
Same.
It's the same.
Yeah, we're matching term. We're we're not extending the payments. They're not all three of those don't pay back the same, we make sure that we refinance them. We're going to put 3 into 1. But you'll see that it mirrors the payment structure so that we don't stretch out any piece. We're not shortening them. We're just keeping the term the same and lowering the payment.
And then the second, is there a cap on the amount of money that you're allowed to do for this, for the bond issues?
There is not a cap in general for how much you're allowed to do, but for this particular grant anticipation note, what we're capping it at is, we know that the maximum that the RACP is providing would be 2.5 million. So we're not going to structure it, we're going to structure it for exactly what you need, whether it's 2, 2.1, or whatever it is, but currently, it won't go more than providing the city with more than 2.5 million, because that's the match that the RACP is going to pay off. Could you borrow more? Sure, you could borrow more, but for this particular RACP grant anticipation refinancing, we're making sure that the maximum of the RACP, 2.5, matches up with the maximum of that note. And after we get, the bids in, we'll determine somewhere between 2 and 2.5 likely is going to be the amount that we're going to want to do, because that's going to be the amount that RACP will provide.
Yeah, and the reason we're doing this is, we have to spend the money before we have to have a project all done and all paid for, and then the state reimburses. So this is financing for that time to build, okay? So I mean, it's unfortunately, it's an expense that we have to bear.
But the
interest.
actual bonds, they don't have a legal, third-class city max or anything like that.
There's a maximum, there are legal maximums that the city, let's just talk about the city, that the city, there is a borrowing base calculation based upon annual revenues and things like that, that there's some kind of a mathematical limit that they're allowed to go out under the Commonwealth. Now, that's not a federal law, that's a Commonwealth law. We haven't looked at that because all we're doing is refinancing existing, and then the short term doesn't really affect anything because that's being paid back by the RACP grant. So yeah, let's just say, hypothetically, the city was contemplating some big project, $50 million new courthouse or something like that. We'd be looking at, 1, can you afford it, but 2, legally, under Commonwealth law, how much can you do? So we're within those regs. Bond counsel will certify to that.
Right.
Before we go out in the market.
It's called LAGUDA, the Local Government Unit Debt Act. You can look that up.
I wasn't going to throw out a LAGUDA, but that's correct.
Thank you.
Somebody would have said, God bless you, or something like that.
Now, does anything change at 2026 on this 2040 bond?
Nope.
Even though we got to redo, like we will be in like a new city of Du Bois.
Right.
Now, is there any hidden cost to do the paperwork going forward?
No.
Because actually, we're going to have to
turn
over to that end.
Correct. I've talked to Anthony about that. Anthony Dicka has been involved in this merger process for a while. So he's the expert on that process. That was the first question that I asked him. And he said, no, we're all fine. He said, we don't even need to be a lot of referencing to this is like that this is a joint this transaction we're talking about here, that it's a joint financing in some way, or, I inquired about that. He said, no, legally, we're fine. You can do this. It's not like once the merger is legally and finally buttoned up, that we'd have to go out and refinance it all under a new joint name or anything like that. It's all, we're all good. Now, going forward, there'll be different disclosure and things like that, but no, we don't have to, it's not.
There's no hidden cost.
So, tied into that, before we become actually legal, as Consolidated, who's paying on this grant or on the refinancing and the bonds? Is that all coming out of Du Bois right now? So nothing is combined in revenue at this point. In 2026, when that drop dead date is, that's when everything gets put in, and then the Sandy Township people start paying, and the Du Bois people into a general fund, and then all the debt goes together. So even though he said that we're not going to talk about being commingled, we really are, to some extent, Sandy's still responsible for this debt, I would imagine.
Yeah, but I mean,
They will be.
The city's been paying the higher rate for a while.
No,
now,
I
so-
mean, that makes sense. The
So
whole
we're still going
refinancing, that
the
was
Du Bois
just-
side will still be able to do that. So
Okay.
it's not like it's going to be a burden, I don't see a burden to Tank Township. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be part of your debt, I guess, but not really.
But we won't be paying until 2026. Any of
Yeah.
it. You guys will. Or Du Bois.
Correct.
I'll just say Du Bois.
Yeah, actually, just to put a button on that, when we were looking at the opportunities, and Sean had mentioned that the township had that loan, and we looked at that, one, it doesn't make sense financially to do that, but I got talking to Mr. Ditka about it, and he said, well, good, that we're not going to do that one, because that would have made this complicated. Because then we would have had Sandy Township, and we would have had City of Du Bois.
Who pays what?
Trying to throw that all in together, then that would have really muddied the waters at this time. So to be able to keep them separate, allow the merger to take its own track, and leave the financing out of it, having to force something earlier or create some kind of weird agreement or something like intermunicipal thing, and we don't want to do that, and that's good that we're not doing it. So it's all clean, all clean. Good? Questions? All right, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Mr. Ditka will be here next week, I think, I'm not sure, with regards to the ordinance. He either will or he will be on by phone. I think I will also be available by phone. I will not be able to be here in person. So just let us know what you need, and we'll just keep moving things along. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Okay, we do need a motion on that.
Sean, do you have a sample?
Yes, I do, right here on this.
This is a wonderful motion right here.
Well, I guess I can't make this motion. You can.
Good, you can.
Yeah. May I ask a question? I'm sorry. I'm just trying to familiarize myself a little bit about this process. Knowing this is a City of Du Bois refinancing, wouldn't this happen at a normal city council meeting? Like, why does it come? I understand the impact to future consolidation, but wouldn't the process be that this vote take place at a Du Bois City Council meeting, which is on Monday?
Yeah, I can answer that. Because we have a consolidation agreement, anything that extends past 26, any new financing or refinancing whatsoever is required to be approved first by the joint board, then separately by the city council.
So city council will approve it.
Okay, great. Thank
Separately.
you for clarifying, because I thought it had to go, it was the
Yeah,
other
and
way
additionally,
around.
this process includes that approximately $2 million for a new building project, so that's why additionally it comes to the joint board.
Okay, thank you.
So I think if you're here Monday night, you get to hear this all over again.
And if you see, Anthony just sent over a revised draft of the motion. Yeah, because I think he had reference, he was starting to make reference to the next year loan. Didn't realize that needed to be removed. That wasn't part of the process, so he just sent over at 644 a new version.
That one just
Oh, wait a minute, that might just be,
No,
that just might be for next week.
We're good, Tim.
That's for
We're-
next
yeah,
week,
we're
good.
good.
All right.
We're good with that. Yep.
Modern technology, I tell you.
I'd like to make this motion. The city of Du Bois has determined that it is in its best financial interest to undertake a project including refunding its currently outstanding general obligation notes issued in 2012, 2013, and 2015 in order to achieve net service savings and acquiring and installing additions, renovations, improvements to the city office building to accommodate the consolidation of the City of Du Bois and Sandy Township, a new roof and exterior cosmetic work for the Sandy Township building for the purpose of long-term storage, and desire to issue general obligation bonds maturing beyond the consolidation date to fund said project pursuant Section 18, subsection A of the First Amendment Consolidation Agreement the joint board approves the issuance of general obligation bonds by the city and the taking of the actions required to effect this project.
That's a good motion, Pat.
Anybody want to second that? Why don't we just give that right to...
Read it to you.
Give it right to Corby.
Is there a second to that? Elliot? Second by Elliot. Any further discussion? No further discussion? Corby?
Abbott,
He fell asleep.
Abbott.
Barry,
Yes.
Augenbaugh,
Yes.
Beers,
Yes.
Dietz.
Yes.
Gelfen.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Malika.
Yes.
Reesinger.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
All right, Al, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for your time. I'll talk to
You
you
bet.
soon.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next, we're looking for authorization to seek actuarial study for police and non-uniform pension options.
Yep, so I discussed earlier, Mr. Chairman, that we did receive some different options for both the police and non-uniform pension plans from our special counsel, McNeese Wallace. My recommendation is that we seek actuarial studies through McNeese Wallace as the contractor, and they can subcontract with the actuarial folks to undertake studies to determine the costs of the various options for combining the pension plans for both the police and the non-uniform.
I'll make the motion, we do the actuarial study for the police and non-uniform pension.
Second. Any questions on the motion? Corby?
Abbott,
Yes.
Augenbaugh,
Yes.
Beers,
Yes.
Dietz.
Yes.
Gelfen.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Malika.
Yes.
Reesinger.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes. Third item on the agenda, Du Bois City Fire Department request for ladder truck. I believe that is to, what, generate specifications?
Yeah, to start the process of speccing it out, get a price, that kind of thing. Ours is coming to its end of life. It's almost a 25-year-old piece of equipment, so it's due for replacement.
I've got a question. Was it brought up at your 9-member meeting the other night? About this?
No.
At the fire sub meeting?
Yeah.
No, it has not been yet.
Okay. Didn't you think it should have? You know, I mean, that's why we're working together on this. It should have been brought up at that meeting before it got presented here. And also, I feel that we need to wait for the fire study. That's what the fire study was put in play for, to see what we're gonna be down to for apparatus, fire stations. I mean, we're getting loans out here left and right. And you guys, you know, you're still waiting every day to see where you're getting money. I'm concerned.
This shouldn't be a
Moving
loan,
forward.
right?
What's that?
This shouldn't be a loan, right?
For a fire truck? Yeah.
The last two
Not a
apparatus
loan.
we've got, we haven't paid a dime for out of our own point. Well, the fire department, the city hasn't paid a dime for the last two engines.
Out of CBG money, right?
Mm-hmm. And the fire department's own money.
And that's gonna change, Joe, when we go together.
So is the fire department wanting to use their money to buy a fire truck ahead of, or to get this in play for the consolidation, to know this is what they'd like to do with the money that they have?
The fire department hasn't really discussed any of that yet. It
Okay.
was brought up at our meeting to notify council that we wanted to start the process of looking into it, which is traditionally how it's always been. So we weren't trying to put the cart before the horse, like regardless of whether the fire department changes with company locations and apparatus, you're still gonna need a 105-foot ladder truck to cover the city of Du Bois because of the high rises downtown, the two hospitals, so you're gonna need it regardless.
Yeah, I totally understand it. But the thing is too, is we're gonna need different apparatus also. And we might be back in talking to this gentleman for a bond issue down the road. So why should we go spend the money right now? When we get this study, we can see and set a plan in play moving forward. And that way, we're doing a fiduciary for our residents in the long run, for our new department.
I think there's just a request to spec one out, not that it's going to be bought or anything. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you walk through the process a little bit? Like,
The current build time is, from what we've been told, is probably at least around 4 years. That's correct. 4 to 5 years. So if we decided today that we're buying a fire truck, it's 5 years from today, it's going to be delivered. So it's the lead time.
And this process is not deciding to buy a fire truck.
No, it's more of a courtesy thing since you guys, just to let you guys know, hey, is it okay if we start specking out fire?
Yeah, because it's going to have to be determined how it's going to get paid for, and there's a whole lot of stuff to do after you figure out what you need.
It would be months before we even decide what this truck is even going to.
Oh, it could be 6 months.
Correct.
Oh, it's a
And the build
process.
time will be several years.
It's a process.
So
Yeah.
this is like for years down the road.
Yeah.
Could even be beneficial that we have some knowledge of cost.
For the fire study.
And there will be, talking to a couple reps from manufacturers, there is due to be a significant price increase in the next 2 years. It'll, just from federal government regulations with the EPA and stuff, it's gonna
Change.
add another at least $100,000 to $200,000 off the baseball, off any fire apparatus. So the quicker we get this process started, the more money it's definitely gonna save the city in the long run.
I know last time you bought a ladder truck, it was kind of a demo ladder truck, am I
We
correct?
bought it in 2005, it was a 2004. We were kind of backed into a corner, our old 1977 ladder truck, which developed a crack at the Fox's fire, and it took it out of service pretty much for good. I think Chief Farrell was a chief part of that process back then, but we had a couple demo rigs come in, and this one fit to our spec. Basically what we wanted, but it had a significant number of hours. It traveled the country demoing for different departments, and but that's what there was available at the time, so that's what we kind of stuck with for the last 20 years. It served its purpose well, though.
Jason?
So, a couple things. I support the fact that we need a 105-foot stick in the city. I'm definitely all for it. A couple concerns with that, though. It was speccing it out. Are we going to make sure that it will be spec'd to a certain size and what height, length, weight? Therefore, it won't just fit into one building. It'll be able to fit into multiple buildings, not knowing where we're going to be as far as a fire department and where that truck will be sitting in a few years. Also, at what point do we stop and we wait on things? With that being said, 36's tanker is quite old, 37's tanker is quite old. They're 24 years old as well and should be getting replaced. We're going to need tankers moving forward still.
Absolutely.
So, yes, we need a truck, but we need to start thinking of those other things as well. Those tankers are all super old, at this point. So, to Bill's point, there's going to be a lot more that's coming sooner than later, and we need to really think about that.
There's a lot more moving parts.
Who would spec the fire truck? And how's that?
Volunteers.
So the fire company does that? Would you?
They're the truck company.
They're the
for
truck
city.
company, sure. But since it's not going to be purchased until the consolidation, is it a good idea to have somebody, someone Sandy Township
Their
help with
input?
that? I don't know if that's
Input on it?
possible, or how that
Well,
works.
that's where the fire subcommittee would come in. I think what Bill was saying, it should have been discussed.
Little comment on that. You guys sort of handcuffed us in the fire subcommittee, to be quite frank with you. We were given explicit marching instructions.
You guys submitted the scope for the committee to us.
No, it was discussed to us first that this was going to be the only direction we were only allowed to approach, like SOGs and bylaws, because there's a lot of things we need to talk about. But we need to have the cuffs taken off. And quite frankly, I'm disappointed that
we have to wait for a fire study from people out of our community when we have a good group of professional people. Professional doesn't mean that you have to be paid. And we've got a ton of expertise between our two departments. And there's a lot that needs done, but the idea that you can look at one particular small piece, just as a stupid example, bylaws, and start to write them now when you don't know, are we dealing with 9 companies, 2 companies, where are they going to be located? Because you're always going back in and trying to revise. You get a screwed up job. You don't get a good job. We need to be able to make some decisions, because these things like the ladder truck and stuff, this is real stuff. And it like he said, 5 years. So decisions are going to have to be made. We're waiting. I heard rumor, I don't know how true it is, that the fire study, we might not hear anything till February or March on that.
We did talk to them the other day. We are expecting it at the end of this year.
So end of this year is at least January then. I mean, that's a lot of time.
But two is, Dana, we actually brought up too that we shouldn't have had the 9-member start back up yet till we did the fire subcommittee, or the fire study, but it got pushed. So, I mean, I'd like to see the fire study to see what it is, take the politics out of it, because there's too much politics too. Run through. Because everybody thought they were gonna run with this one horse, well, that one horse is gone, and now all of a sudden, let's do it the right way and be transparent and not have these little backdoor meetings and hide and stuff. Bring it out to the people.
I will say that our fire subcommittee meetings, the folks that are on that, were, you know, they're good men that are on that committee, and we are doing and going through the SOGs, and, you know, we're making some headway with it, and, you know, I'm really good with where we're at with that moving forward and keeping that committee going. I don't think we need to pause it, or, you know, I think we still need to keep moving, and we'll get some good stuff out of there.
Do you think it's a good idea that volunteers talks with fire subcommittee to get township input as well? Or maybe not township, but to get input from the entire fire subcommittee?
I mean, I think we should let them come up with what they think they need, and then...
Or the other ladder company that Sandy has.
Yeah, we have another truck company.
Right. Yeah.
I guess I was going to bring up a little thing later, but what's the big thing, and I don't know how you guys are relating to each other, that they spec it out. I mean, it doesn't cost anything, correct?
Not to spec it out, no.
You just spec it out, you get something, and then say, here it is, even if you then got together or tried to get input. I mean, I don't understand why you guys even have to vote on it. You're not giving them money or anything. All they're asking for, like, you go to the dealership, you just get forestry trucks all the time, and we spec them out, and then they come back, and then it was a bid, you know, and it was a whole process. I
So they're
support-
bringing that to us as a courtesy, because that's how they have done it in the past. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a problem with them specking out a fire truck. I just, as long as we're, as a group, not agreeing that we're buying it, but I would like to see more cooperation between Sandy and Du Bois and amongst the fire halls, with even specking it out, knowing that consolidations down the road, I mean, they can say what they would like, but why not ask for a second opinion from another fire hall that already has one? What's that gonna hurt? I mean, I don't see if they wanna spec it out, fine, but it would be nice to get someone else's opinion, but them working all together would be really great.
Go ahead.
So typically, when we spec trucks out like this, like volunteers would spec out the truck to tailor to what we want. And any other engine, any other apparatus, there's a truck committee through that company, but then it's opened up through our department, and we invite people through the department in to give input in. So I don't see that there would be a problem that we could have Sandy Township come in, the city come in, you know, we want to tailor this to the way we operate as a truck company, but, you know, gladly take input from anybody, you know, somebody might be a mechanic, somebody might be a truck driver, somebody might deal with cranes, you know, there's a lot of input in it, and I think, you know, you were talking about tankers, Bill, like, to me, a tanker is a tanker. I mean, it's a truck with a tank on it. There's a lot more moving parts on a ladder truck, which,
I
you
know.
know. So, you know, we're
Took
talking
2
about
years to design ours.
specking out a ladder truck compared to specking out a tanker. You know, that's my.
All I want to see is cooperation. I was disappointed. We had our meeting, our 9-member person come back, and then I get my packet the other day, and I get this in there, and I called him. I said, "Hey, you never brought this up."
Well,
he says, "No, there was nothing there." He said, "The only thing was afterwards, off the record, is that, oh, well, yeah, we're thinking about it." And that was it. But this letter was dated July 1st, and your meeting was July 10th.
Well,
I mean, that's where we need to get that cooperation, and this could have been alleviated. And at that meeting, you could have said, "Hey, you know, we're looking at this. Let's try to work together because we want to make our new fire department." And we can see that where you guys are used to run that 105 in the city limits. We could tell you the pitfalls of what we got out in Sandy Township. That's the thing. That's a cooperation. And that's where we need to get to. And that's what I'm looking for, is we're going to be spending millions of dollars. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it, because there's a lot of apparatus in this community that is old that needs replaced. But we need to get down to that. We need to see what we actually need. Are we going to run a true truck company? Or are we going to run it as a quint? A quint is a engine/ladder. We need to look at that stuff. Are we going to run just a rescue company? Or are we going to run everybody's a rescue company? There's so many unknowns here. That's why I wanted to see this fire study to see where we're going to end up at. You know, and it takes the politics out of, because the last time it was the old boys club, this is where this is going, this is where that's going, you know, and that's out of this now. And we got a clean slate, and I want to do it right.
So let me ask you this. Does that mean that whatever the fire study says when it comes back, that you and all of you are going to say, yes, that's what we're going to do?
If it's in our financial realm, I don't see why not.
Just to clarify on that letter too, the department wrote a letter to the Du Bois City Council. So that was just volunteers went to the fire department went to city council, and I found out last night at midnight that it was on this agenda for tonight. You know what I mean? So if somebody came to us and said,
I got the letter and pass it on.
If somebody came to us or came to everybody and said, hey, why don't you take that to the 9-man board before you bring it here, we'd have been all in favor of it. Like I said, I found out at midnight when I was at a CO call last night that this was on the agenda.
Yeah.
But I think the only thing we're asking is keep the fire subcommittee apprised of your progress, how things are going, and get input.
So you're saying volunteers will spec the truck, but then it goes to fire department to look at the specs and comment on them and maybe make changes and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's fine, and Sandy Township, since we'll be working together sooner or later, get involved and do that. You guys spec it and get it to everybody, and I'm good with at least spec it.
One more comment, Mark, if you don't mind. I agree with what everybody's saying, but and I also see Dana's point is that we don't know what's in scope for the 9-man committee and what is not. To Dana's point, like, should this have gone to the 9-man committee? Well, no, we're only talking about bylaws and SOGs. We're not talking about administrative level fire department stuff, how many chiefs, how many stations, how all that's going to work. So should it go to the 9-man or not? Like, what's the scope of the subcommittee is the ultimate question. Should it be in scope? And if it is, then like Dana said, those are the things we should be talking about. So I understand the confusion, and yes, I agree that the cooperation obviously needs to be there, and once we get to that point. I have no doubt that it will be, but, just pile on what Dana said, like, the 9-man board either needs to have the handcuffs taken off or, just have the ability to talk about, a wider scope of things than just SOGs. That's all.
All it was a discussion, so, I mean, you could just talk.
Yeah, I don't
That's the
disagree.
big thing, it's
Yeah.
communication. Why, if it was communicated, like you said, you just found out last night at midnight, There's a lot of communication.
We need a motion.
You have official letters, so yeah.
Need a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yo. Oh, sorry.
Yo.
I make a motion that, I make a motion we allow the Du Bois Fire Department to spec out a new ladder truck.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion on the motion?
I like the stipulation that there's no signed contracts.
Barry, you're just saying
On my motion,
to spec out a new truck.
just spec out a new truck without any stipulations. My motion stands, and a second. Call for question.
Question on the motion, Corby?
Abbott,
Yes.
Augenbaugh,
Yes.
Beers,
No.
Dietz,
Yes.
Gelfen.
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Malaga,
No.
Reesinger,
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes. Motion carries. But I'm sure you guys will be keeping Du Bois City Fire Department informed, the fire subcommittee informed. You shocked me when you say it's 4.5 years out.
4 to 5 years.
Yeah, talking with Brockway, I think they were, 2.5 when they ordered theirs?
Who'd you get that from?
Here.
Is that from Seagrave? Yeah. I know Sutphen's down to 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have authorization to hire for vacant positions. Sandy Township is looking to hire an engineering technician. We're going to do these individually. I'd like a motion for each.
Yeah, I can just talk about that one just real quick. We put out advertisement for a planning, zoning, code enforcement officer. Unfortunately, we just didn't get any candidates that were well suited for the position. So we decided to kind of retool that position to make it more of an engineering position, and discussed with the current code enforcement officer for the city, Zach Lawhead, to help out Sandy Township with code enforcement in the township. So we think this will be a good position to help with those planning zoning matters, but additionally for inspection services for land developments, and as the engineer would need, and will really work well with Consolidation.
Sean, would this position require a degree in engineering?
So we are requiring at least a 2-year associate's degree, Jim, in engineering.
Okay, and then moving forward into consolidation, how does this all fit in with the pieces of the puzzle, I guess I'll put it that way?
Yeah, we think it fits well, as this position would handle more of that land development, planning component and zoning component, and Zach would take on more of the code enforcement component. So we do think it would work very well into Consolidation.
Okay, thank you.
Additionally, I'll just add, Jim, that one of the components of the position is also inspection services. Just for example, we have a West Washington Avenue water line replacement project now that we're hiring an outside inspector at a discounted rate of $75 per hour. We can use this individual for projects of that nature to save some money on inspection services also.
Sean, just to let the people know, this is not adding a new position. It's just renaming the position we already have.
Correct. Yep.
Yep, thank you.
I'll make a motion to authorize the hiring of an engineering tech for Sandy Township.
Second?
Properly moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Cory?
Abbott,
Yes.
Augenbaugh,
Yes.
Beers,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Gelfen.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Malika.
Yes.
Reesinger.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Sandy Township Police Officer replacement?
Yep, this is just seeking approval to replace an officer that no longer works with us, so we do have a vacancy at Sandy Township. So this would just be replacing that police officer.
Make the motion. we
Question
move-
here, Sean, if you could answer for me, please.
Sure.
So with the consolidation, looking ahead on how many officers, through the committee and others think that we're going to need, is this actually one that we do need to replace? Or is there some way, working together with the city and other officers, that could be filled that way versus added another policeman? But I don't know what that number is.
Yeah, I'll answer that two
You
ways.
guys were looking at.
Two ways, Jim, and both Interim Chief McCleary and Chief Krzelek are here in the room. So first, it does fit into that organizational structure that we are all kind of working off of and looked at. And I'll turn it over to Chris if you wanted to add anything as far as component-wise.
Just with the current numbers that we have, I think the numbers that Sandy Township currently has, DuBois City currently has, when we worked on that organizational chart, it gives enough service for both municipalities when we consolidate it. If we cut a little bit short, then we're cutting, from a patrol shift. Sandy Township right now, we really need that officer because we're short an officer on 2 different patrol shifts.
So yeah, and one thing just to add also, we do have a number of officers that are close to retirement. If we felt at consolidation that we had too many or the costs were too high, we could look at attrition to make up those numbers.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys.
I'll make the motion, we move forward with the replacement of the police officer.
Second.
Moved and second. Any further discussion? Corby?
Abbott,
Yes.
Augenbaugh,
Yes.
Beers,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Gelfen.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Malika.
Yes.
Reesinger.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes. DuBois City Assistant Manager / Economic Development Coordinator.
Yeah, so this position was approved by City Council to put out, so we are again seeking joint board approval to put out that position. As DuBois City Council, I'll speak for them, believe strongly that economic development is needed, so to reach out to entities, industries, commercial entities to bring them into town and help facilitate those processes. Additionally, with the loss of Chris Nasuti and the previous manager from the city of DuBois, it's been hard to manage both municipalities and consolidation. So additionally, the role would include an assistant manager position to help facilitate that.
Question, Sean. Now, moving
Mr. Chairman,
forward-
I have a question.
Hold
Hold on, Barry.
on, Barry. Bill has the floor.
On this position.
Sorry.
Now, where's the money coming from? Because I know in the long term, when the study was done, there was you and the previous manager, and it was going to go away for savings in the long run. So where's this fall moving forward? Are you going to be strapped on the budgetary moving forward till we get together?
Yep, so I can answer that. So a couple things on that. The assistant manager position was envisioned as part of the consolidation. It's in the consolidation agreement. It was something that was looked at as needed as a consolidated entity. As far as the DuBois City budget goes, there has been some cost savings with, currently they're not paying for a manager. They're not paying for a police chief, an assistant treasurer, a assistant public works director position is going to be going away, and so some of those positions
an existing assistant treasurer position was removed. So financially, have been a number of savings and cuts on the city side.
I just don't want to see somebody getting hired here and down the road, as soon as we get this new tax structure, that we're gonna be cutting. I mean, people gotta face it. We gotta see where we're gonna end up here next year. And there's still a lot of uncertainties, because you gotta go through these pensions. So, just want to make sure that you don't have to go and cut another 1 million board feet just to. We don't want to. Yeah, that's what I mean, you know? I mean, we gotta have some. We don't do that. We cut when the forester tells us to cut. Yeah.
I will say, long-term, we talk a lot about the fire department, long-term, the city building, long-term. I think the city has never had a long-term economic development plan in place. That is a major thing. If we want to stay viable within the state to draw people in here, I think that, and we need somebody that is really capable of this position. I think for us to come together as a community and be a great city that we already are, but on a bigger scale, we need somebody in this position.
Hopefully we can find somebody. Truthfully.
Yep.
My turn?
Go ahead, Barry.
Mark? Coming off of Bill's comments, I thought the city already had somebody in line. They already had a redevelopment authority that's already on the books. I'm just not sure how we got from having one to not having one to hiring somebody for redevelopment. I'm confused, and I would like to hear some input. Pat, you sat on the redevelopment authority board for 20 years, maybe?
24 years.
So, yeah, maybe you can help me out here.
Sure can. Sure can.
We had a guy there, so help me out. What happened here?
Certainly will help you out. For 24 years, I sat on that board and said, what can we do about blighted properties? They're tough. It's hard to do. 20 minutes with Lisa from the Clearfield County Redevelopment Authority. I said, what can we do about blighted properties? Well, why don't you do a home program? I said, what's that? She told me. I said, well, let's do that. In 2 weeks, she had the grant written. I can give you the paperwork. I signed the paperwork, and she applied for $500,000 for the city and Sandy Township. We're allowed to do that every year. For 24 years, we could have got $500,000 and we didn't. That's why we're looking for a new economic development coordinator.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
I've been on redevelopment authority for the past 7 years, and we've discussed that every year. And you, along with everybody else on redevelopment authority, didn't want to get involved in housing. So
I've always done housing.
You can say what you want, Pat. I know what you said, and you didn't want to get involved in housing.
Well, Mike, you were incorrect.
I'm accurate.
About 10 years ago, when the downtown program was started, we all got together and we did an inventory of all the properties in Du Bois. We took pictures, there was everybody. We did all wards, we did everywhere. We came together, went to city council and said, hey, here, what can we do about this blighted property? Tony Cherry sat there and said, well, these guys can't do anything about blighted property. They need to get elected next year. That's what I was told. So no, I was absolutely for blighted properties, homeowners.
And I'll just clear up one misconception. The redevelopment authority is not going away. The redevelopment authority still owns, leases properties. They can still hire an executive director. They can still apply for grants. They can all still do all those things. Just the only difference is before the city was paying us the salary of that director.
I might not have been as forceful for the last 7 years you hear, but the first 15 I certainly was. And we need an economic development coordinator, absolutely, with a degree.
Yeah, if I can speak on the economic development coordinator, I spoke at our last meeting about how important that is, I think, to the new city. And, what does that actually look like? What does that person need to have for this on what, we need to do as the new city, and how much time would that person have to spend on that part of it? And I know this is kind of like looking into the crystal ball, maybe some of the unknown, I'm not sure. I just don't want to rush into something here and decide later that, hey, maybe we should have done this, or maybe we should have done that. Not saying, you don't need some help there for an assistant manager. I'm just trying to look at it from separately, assistant manager and economic development coordinator. Do we really know what that looks like? I don't think I've received enough information on that to make an informed decision to move forward with this, my opinion.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why are you keeping the authority then? If you're getting an economic development coordinator, why don't you just bring it under that?
The economic development coordinator would work for the city of DuBois. So right now,
But can you bring them properties that are governed under that authority right now into the city?
Would you have to dissolve the authority?
Oh, no. We need redevelopment authority.
Yes.
yeah, they can both work
Absolutely.
hand in hand
Yes.
together.
There are specific things that they do that need to be done that the city can't do.
So you're talking two different things.
Well, if you have a redevelopment authority, like Bill just said, and then we can just shift the emphasis over to an assistant manager for Sean and save ourselves money.
I'm gonna question true economic development.
Yeah.
We want true economic development. That is not, it's bringing people with good paying jobs to this city. It is not building, nothing against fast food chains, but it is bringing people that can live here, raise their children here, and another generation here is what we're talking about. It's more than lighted properties. This is true for a city economic development is what we're looking for. Somebody that is out there going to conferences, meeting people, meeting legislators, and seeing what they can do to move this city forward for the next 30 years. And that has never, in my life that I've had a business downtown, ever been done. And it is time, by God, that this council do it. The citizens of this town, this city deserve it. We deserve good paying jobs back here because there's good people in this community. I don't understand all the fuss about an economic director. Joe Mitchell is a good man. I will say his name. Nobody is saying he isn't. But we need somebody with a fantastic economic development person. And that's all I'm going to say. I will make the motion at this point if we're done with questions.
That's why I mentioned about separating the two.
And I have to come in with Jim on that. If we already have an economic redevelopment authority, just give them that job, and we hire Sean an assistant.
Two separate things.
That's where I was going with this. I wanted it to come out. It's two separate different
Two separate
entities.
things,
One's for the blighted or whatever you want to do. You need to show that the mission of this, you need to show the mission of economic development. Just like Jen said, that's what it's supposed to be.
And the big thing with Sandy Township, with the merger, Sandy Township has lots of land that needs that can be developed. Good land, close to the interstate and close to town and it needs to be looked at, it needs to be pushed. I think this position, even though Du Bois is hiring this position, I see this position doing more good in what I would call the area of Sandy Township than Du Bois. Du Bois doesn't have anything to do. We don't have much here. We don't have any land to put an auto manufacturer in, but Sandy Township does. So let the guy get started, and he'll be running. And just because Du Bois is hiring him doesn't mean he's not going to promote Sandy Township. He's going to promote Sandy Township right now as soon as he's hired.
Yes.
And that's why we need somebody good and solid.
Back to my original premise then. Sean definitely needs an assistant, period. It sounds to me like we need a person 100% on economic development. I just listened to Jen give a lecture on bringing good paying jobs into our city. I don't foresee how we can have an assistant manager slash economic developer trying to do two different jobs. If we have an economic developer, we need that person to be 100% on board doing the best work for our city.
Well, that's what the assistant managers will do.
Yes.
That's in their job description, and,
And, you know, if it gets to the point where we need a full-time economic development coordinator, we'll make him that and hire another, you know, assistant.
Yeah, and that's why we think this position
It's a good-
works very well, especially for the initial beginnings, and just a couple projects just right away where I'm working on. We have 400 acres just opened up on Platte Road with all utilities. We need someone there, getting that area, we need folks to be in there. City of DuBois owns 75 plus acres up from Doolittle's. We need to get that property developed. We can use that. It's a city asset that isn't doing anything right now, right off Interstate 80. So those kind of things that we see right away. Industrial Drive, another 200 acres that we're working on sewers right now to get to. Once we get that opened up, hopefully we'll be under construction next year on sewers. We're gonna have that property to develop. So that's the kind of projects that we hope to.
and there's people out there that are interested in this job, so they.
We've had lots of applications already and lots of good applications. Folks-
Sean in the background of economic
Correct,
development.
yep, so.
So you made the motion, right? I'll second the motion.
Okay. Corby, could I ask you to restate the motion, please?
Jen was gonna write and give it to her.
To authorize to hire for the DuBois City Assistant Manager, Economic Development Coordinator.
Okay, properly moved and second. Is there any further discussion?
I kind of talked about this last Monday, but the idea that we got rid of the assistant public works superintendent. And now we're looking to hire for an assistant manager, economic development coordinator. In those rules, I felt like the position was kind of very similar, held the same roles.
How?
So why are we eliminating a position?
How is assistant public works related to economic development?
I feel like they were doing the duties of those roles.
In what way? I disagree.
About that.
Yeah, I don't see how they have anything to do with each other.
Any other comment? We'll vote on the motion.
Abbott,
Yes.
Augenbaugh,
No.
Beers,
Yes.
Dietz,
No.
Gelfand,
Yes.
Jackson,
Absolutely, yes.
Malika,
Yes.
Reesinger,
I'm in. Yes.
Solomon.
Yes. That concludes our new business joint board member comments. Bill, we'll start at your end.
No, I just like the discussions we had tonight. That's what we need moving forward. Keep it out in the open, communication. You know, not this backdoor bullshit. I like it here. We do it here, we go out, we're all family members, and we leave. So, God bless the USA. That's all I got.
Sam?
Yeah, I'm happy that we're moving forward on the assistant manager slash economic developer position. I think it's good that Sean has a person that he can interview and is comfortable working with, and I'm happy to see that passed. And as far as my no vote goes on about the fire specs, I was just a little uncomfortable with the motion. I wanted to add something to that motion, but we couldn't. About that. So I'm fine with the fire truck study. So that's good.
Scotty?
No.
Jen?
No, what, every fireman that I've talked to, they'll say, you know, they don't get along with this one or that one, that they go to a fire and they all work together. So I know in the end, this is all going to work out, and it's going to be just fine. I'm glad to see economic development is coming to Du Bois. I have grandkids here. We all have grandkids here.
I know.
You will.
I want them to stay here.
And I want them to stay here. There is a lot of good people in this community.
Elliot?
I'm good.
Shane? Nope, all good. Sean?
I'll just say it's been just really great working with everybody from the city, and also from the township. Everybody's working together very well. Even the fire companies, there are a couple things they're working on behind the scenes that are doing very well. So I think everything's working together, and I just appreciate being able to be in this position to help coordinate and facilitate this consolidation. Thanks to DCD and Terry Kunkel for coming out today. We really appreciate your presence here and your help with grant funding and just walking us through the process. So you've been a great help, Terry. Thank you so much.
Pat?
I like the fact that, you know, a lot of tough decisions are made, but everybody speaks their mind, everybody listens to the person speaking their mind, and we vote the way we go, and it's a majority wins. You know, that's how it's supposed to work. I'm very happy. And when you get different opinions on subjects, you make better decisions. You know, you might change, you know, somebody might change my way to a certain way. So I'm very happy with the way things are going.
Barry?
I want to just reiterate what Pat just said. The people in the audience, the people on the videos tonight, you just witnessed good government at work. From Bill Beers to Jen Jackson and everybody in between.
Why are they on opposite sides of the road? Put them together next time. Sorry.
You're killing me. You're absolutely killing me. But the point is, everybody made an opinion, we voted, and we move forward. That's what's going to happen. And here's the difficult thing that we have ahead of us. We heard a lot of financial information tonight on refinancing and the way we're going to finance our new city. It is the 10 of us that need to make good fiduciary decisions for the betterment of our new city and our residents. We need a lot of information, and we need to make good, sound financial decisions. Thank you. Have a good night.
Jim?
Yeah, you know, a lot of great conversation. I thought that was good. A lot of information shared by some questions being asked and things like that. I am still a little uncertain about the city assistant manager and the economic development coordinator. I want both, but I'm not so sure that it shouldn't have been separate positions, or if you could even hire that person that really fits that mold for both. Would love to see the resumes to look at that you're getting in that you said. I was not aware of that, so it just kind of, I'm really strong on the economic development, as I said, and I'm just not so sure that a person's really focusing that time. I know you want to get things started, but I was just looking long-term and not knowing whether that would be two separate positions or not. So I guess we will see where that takes us. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Jim. I can't add anything that hasn't already been said. We'll open the meeting to the floor. Before we do, though, I wanted to call on Terry and see if you had anything to add.
I will. I'll say thank you for the kind words, Sean, but I'm just going to reiterate what everybody said here. I've been involved in this from day one. This meeting warmed my heart. It really did. It's positive. I tell Sean every time I talk to him that I am very, very happy and pleased with how you guys have come together and moved forward. So kudos. It's been great.
Thank you, Terry. We have the two chairs for the fire subcommittee here. Do you guys have anything you'd like to report on or comments?
Everything's going good.
Yeah, I don't have anything out of the fire subcommittee side, but out of, as a township fire chief, the box alarms that we changed inside Sandy Townships, so that way we could have the closest fire companies coming to most of the calls, made some sense. I didn't do it to force anybody's hand to change box alarms. I didn't do it because we needed the city, as some of the rumors that I've heard is we did it because we need the city's help. That's not the reason why I did that. John and I sat down and went through box alarms, and we really thought that driving by fire stations like we've done over the past umpteen years is just not the right thing for our community. So that's the reason why we changed our box alarms. I don't expect anything else out of that. So, but they're done. We're working great, Jen. As you said, you wanted to see us working together. The city fire department and township has been on several calls now, and everything's running pretty good. So I just want to thank them for being part of it.
Okay, thanks, guys. We'll open the meeting to the floor. State your name for the record.
Yeah, Dave Lombardo, Treasure Lake. Got a couple questions. Some of it's to do with the fire department. Who buys the trucks? I was always under the impression the volunteer fire departments had to find your own funding and everything else.
Well,
I mean, who, if you ever get a truck or if you ever get equipment, is it general fund? Who is actually paying for that?
In Sandy Township, we have a fire tax. That
Oh, we
gets-
do have one.
We do have a fire
I didn't know I
tax.
was paying.
You are. There's no.
That's my second part.
No, set aside for the fire department. Township collects that tax and it's distributed evenly between the 4 township fire companies. Most of them do their own fundraisers as well.
But that fire tax does not just pay for fire trucks.
Yeah.
That pays for everything.
Right, equipment,
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
work, so it becomes a fund just for the fire
Yeah, all
department.
4 individual companies in Sandy Township.
And what does
pay for
Du Bois
themselves.
do? Do you have a fire tax too?
No.
We do not have a fire tax, I can speak on it a little bit.
Yeah.
The last engine we bought last year, we got, about, I'd say roughly about half, a little more than half through grants. The other half the fire department paid out of their own pocket. The engine before that, which I believe was 4th Ward, we had I believe the hospital paid for that engine as well as a chief's vehicle at the time, so grants and
But
donations and stuff like that.
Still not enough to cover, because you're always out there, and I hate to say this, begging.
Yeah, because, I mean, you look at, like, we just spent, $500,000 last year on air packs. I mean, if you go on the internet and look at the price of fire, even a fire axe compared to actually getting a hardware store, it's like triple the price. Anything that has fire on it is outrageously priced, and, I mean, we don't have a choice. I mean, we need hose, we need nozzles,
It's gotta be
all that
standard.
stuff, and we just have to pay whatever it is, I mean.
Well, I guess my second part of all this was, you do now have the tax budget fee committee, or whatever it was called. You guys already did that. Are we gonna look at that and see what type of assessments needed for, taxing in terms of, like you said, Sandy Township has that fire tax and that, and look at what's really needed and coincide that? I mean, it would be nice if you would have that committee looking at that. I hate to lose Sandy Township's tax that I'm more than willing to pay and have been paying.
No, Dave, we're not gonna let you go.
And I hate paying taxes, so.
Holistically, we'll look at a budget, and then we will determine a tax rated structure based upon that budget, and also water sewer fees based upon that budget.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is, I would like to see a specialized, that tax, go in there and try and cover as much as possible. Because, fine, the firemen can still go out and have different events, but I hate to see that we have to beg and have the volunteers and everybody out there trying to get money for something that's, really, really needed. And I do know, I think I talked to you at one point, I'm even open to, it's gonna be a larger fire department, and the chiefs have a lot of work as it is now. We probably have no home lives. And basically looking at maybe even a paid position if it's possible, and what that all entails with the state and stuff like that. It'd be nice if that committee can look at some of those issues and stuff going forward. The second thing I was going to talk about is the Economic Development Coordinator. I'm on the board of directors at Treasure Lake, and I go nuts because I keep saying the word socio-economic studies. We seem to have a tendency to just rush into something, oh, this is a money-making. I cringed a little bit, Sean, when you said, oh, we got like these 400 acres, or maybe you said 4 acres, I don't know how many acres out there. What people don't realize, having lived in a lot of small rural communities, smaller than Du Bois and stuff, is you can bring in these industries, but the major effect, I mean, you need to have a strategic plan, where you want to go, and then you need to develop that, but you also need to look at it. You can bring in a new development, and it comes in here, and all of a sudden your infrastructure, your school system can't deal with that. And I would hope that this Economic Development Coordinator, before you do that, would be the in-house person to do that. And I would hope that Treasure Lake could tap into that person at this point in time, if need be, part of Sandy Township. I'm saying,
Yeah, one thing, Dave, we've talked about is an ATV trailhead at Treasure Lake. This is a perfect opportunity for someone like an economic development coordinator to be involved in that project.
Right, and I'm against it, basically, because I don't have that I've been asking for 3 years for a socio-economic study. A person like this can come in and actually say, here's the effect on the homeowners, here's the effect on your quality of life as you come in and you do these developments. You can do a development, you can bring in revenue and cost you more, and the tax base is able to support. And that's exactly something to look at, to say, what is it? Who is paying for this? This is a housing development, who's paying for that? So I'm glad you're going to have one, and I assume then that Treasure Lake can tap into that also, right?
Yep, we've worked with Treasure Lake on numerous projects, yep, and continue to move forward with that.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the floor? Motion to adjourn?
I'll call that real quick. Yeah, I'll just reiterate what Jason said. It's been great working with them. Looking forward to it. I know I can speak for Third Ward. We've trained with North Point Fire Company for the past couple of years now. So the new boxes and everything Jason implemented, I think things are going great. And it's only up from here. And I want to thank everybody's input on the ladder truck. Obviously, things are changing here in the next couple of years, and obviously the way we're going about speccing it and doing that is going to change a little bit too. So I look forward to that as well. So for the new department. So.
Has Du Bois changed boxes at all too, or are they working on that, or what?
They had changed their fireboxes, and Sandy Township's on all of their fireboxes.
So they did change?
All structure five.
Yeah, all their structure fireboxes, they did change and put Sandy Township on those.
You guys have plans to do your locals?
We were talking about it, and it's kind of going to be complicated to do it because, like, going with the closest fire station model that the township went with, like, there's only a few places where it would be close. So, and I just talked to those two last night. I almost added 36 on our CO alarm last night. So I anticipate coming to stuff. So I don't know if it's worth going through and changing box alarms now when we don't know what's going on yet, because it's all going to have to be changed again. So just add as we go, I guess. But we've worked great together on the couple structure fires that we've had. So, no issues. Everything's going pretty good, in my opinion.
Thanks, guys.
Want the motion to adjourn?
Motion by Jen, second by Bill. Bill, the opposite ends of the room. Opposite ends. All in favor?
The two book
Barry, I don't know if you heard of the commotion. Motion to adjourn.
Yes, I heard it.
All right.
I heard it. I said yes.
Augenbaugh.
Yes.
Beard.
Yes.
Deep.
Yes.
Gelfen.
Yes.
Jackson. Malika.
Yes.
Reesinger.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Hey, guys, I go by, I go by.
We appreciate it.